The potential mental health benefits
Yeah.
of cold water swimming,
Mm.
you might be thinking. Icy water and feeling good.
Yeah.
How does that work? And you know what? That's a fair question. That's exactly what we're here to unpack today. We've got a fascinating mix of sources to explore. A personal story from someone who's experienced these benefits firsthand and some really compelling scientific research. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have the knowledge to decide if taking the plunge
Yeah.
is something you'd want to explore further. And if so, how to do it safely and effectively.
What I find particularly intriguing is how this seemingly simple act of immersing yourself in cold water can trigger such a complex cascade of physiological responses, ultimately impacting both our physical and mental well-being.
Right. I mean, it's not just a quick shock to the system. There's some serious science at play here. But before we get into all that, let's start with that personal story, because I think it really sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about.
Personal experiences can offer valuable insights, providing a human touch to the scientific data we'll be exploring.
Absolutely. So this person was drawn to cold water swimming, specifically for its potential mental health benefits. They were looking for a natural way to manage stress and boost their mood. And picture this, it's their first time. They wade into the icy water, and that initial shock hits them. They describe it as feeling like 1,000 tiny needles pricking their skin.
That intense sensation is the body's natural response to a sudden drop in temperature. It's a survival mechanism designed to protect us from hypothermia.
But here's where it gets interesting. That initial shock gives way to this incredible sense of calm and clarity. And they describe this surge in energy and a noticeable lift in their mood that it lasts for hours afterward.
That aligns with the research on endorphin release, triggered by cold water exposure.
We're not just talking about any endorphins here. Cold water swimming specifically stimulates the release of beta endorphins, which have powerful mood-boosting and pain-relieving effects, in fact. Some studies suggest that the beta endorphin rush from cold water swimming can be even more potent than what you get from exercise.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. And to be clear, they didn't just jump into the North Sea in the middle of winter. They eased into it gradually, starting with short sessions in warmer water and slowly decreasing the temperature and increasing the duration over time.
That gradual progression is crucial for allowing the body to adapt and for minimizing the risks associated with cold water immersion.
Now that we've got that personal experience in mind, I'm really curious to dig into the science behind all of this, because it sounds almost too good to be true. Well, the science is definitely catching up with anecdotal evidence, and it's fascinating to see how the pieces fit together. One of the key mechanisms at play here is, as we mentioned, the release of those beta endorphins. But it goes beyond just a mood boost. These endorphins actually interact with the receptors in our brain that regulate pain and stress, leading to a feeling of overall well-being.
So there's an actual chemical reason behind that feeling of euphoria people describe after a cold swim.
Exactly. And then there's the impact on our stress response system. Initially plunging into cold water triggers that classic fight-or-flight response, a surge of cortisol and adrenaline. But here's where it gets really interesting. With repeated exposure, our body actually adapts to this stressor. The research shows that this leads to a blunted stress response over time. So essentially, cold water swimming might be training our bodies to handle stress more effectively in other areas of our lives.
So it's like building up a tolerance, but for stress instead of something like caffeine. I never thought of it that way.
It's a fascinating area of research, and it suggests that cold water swimming could potentially have long-term benefits for managing stress and anxiety.
That's incredible. And this is all starting to make a lot more sense now,
Yeah.
connecting the dots between those personal experiences and the science behind it. So let's talk about some of the specific mental health benefits mentioned in the research. First up, reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Now, it's crucial to be clear that cold water swimming is not a cure-all, and more research is needed to fully understand its long-term effects. But what's promising is that studies are showing a decrease in depressive symptoms and anxiety levels in people who regularly engage in cold water swimming. It seems to be particularly effective for those dealing with mild to moderate symptoms.
That's really encouraging to hear. And it's not just about feeling less anxious or depressed. The research also points to improved mood and energy levels, which ties back to that personal story we discussed earlier.
Right, and this isn't just a temporary boost. Some studies suggest that regular cold water swimming can lead to sustained improvements in mood and energy levels, thanks to the consistent release of those mood-regulating neurochemicals and the positive impact on the stress response system.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as cold water swimming could have such profound impact on our brain chemistry.
It speaks to the interconnectedness
Yeah.
of our mind and body and the powerful ways in which our environment can influence our mental state.
Okay, and one more benefit I want to touch on before we move on.
Right.
The research also mentions enhanced sleep quality as a potential benefit.
Here's what's interesting about the sleep connection. Cold water swimming triggers a relaxation response in the body. As it warms up afterward, this can help to regulate our circadian rhythm, which is basically our internal sleep-wake cycle, leading to more restful sleep. It's like hitting the reset button on your sleep patterns.
Now let's be real, who couldn't use a better night's sleep? I know I could.
Sleep is absolutely foundational to mental health and overall well-being, so the potential for cold water swimming to improve sleep quality is a significant benefit.
Before we move on from the science, I just want to make sure we cover one last detail from the research: the increased release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Can you explain what those are and how they relate to mental health?
These are key players in mood regulation and feelings of well-being. Dopamine is associated with reward, motivation, and pleasure, while serotonin contributes to feelings of calmness, happiness, and emotional stability. Cold water immersion seems to boost the production of both of these neurotransmitters, which could explain why people often describe feeling a sense of euphoria and contentment after a cold swim.
It's incredible to think that something as simple as cold water swimming could have such a complex impact on our brain chemistry, influencing everything from our mood to our sleep to how we handle stress.
It challenges our assumptions about what constitutes therapy or treatment. Sometimes the most powerful interventions are found in nature's simplest elements.
Now I'm guessing at this point, you might be pretty intrigued by all of this, but maybe also a little intimidated. You're probably thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do this safely?
That's a perfectly natural reaction. It's essential to approach cold water swimming with a healthy respect for the potential risks and a commitment to safety.
The sources really emphasize a gradual approach to acclimatize your body and avoid any dangers like shock or hypothermia.
Exactly. We don't want you jumping from zero to a polar bear plunge overnight. It's all about easing in, listening to your body, and respecting the power of the cold.
Here are some key safety tips to keep in mind. First and foremost, never swim alone. Always have a buddy with you.
A swimming buddy can provide assistance if needed, monitor your condition, and offer encouragement and support. It's a fundamental safety measure, especially for those new to cold water swimming.
And choose your swimming locations carefully. Look for places with clear water, safe depth, and no underwater hazards.
Ideally, you want to start in a location where you can easily enter and exit the water, and where there are no strong currents or obstacles to contend with.
It's also essential to let someone know your swimming route and your estimated return time. That way, if anything unexpected happens, someone knows where to look for you.
And this may seem obvious, but always check the weather and water conditions before each swim. Mother Nature can be unpredictable, and it's not worth taking any risks.
All great points. Another tip that's highlighted in the sources is to be aware of your own physical limitations and to take regular breaks. Don't push yourself beyond what your body can handle.
And if you have any pre-existing health conditions, it's a good idea to consult with your doctor before starting cold water swimming.
Right. Safety first, always. Okay, so let's say you've taken all the necessary precautions. You're feeling confident and ready to take the plunge. Where do you go? The sources mention some amazing spots in the UK that are perfect for cold water swimming.
The UK offers a fantastic range of options, from dramatic coastal areas to serene lakes and reservoirs. Each location offers a unique experience in a different way to connect with the elements.
For those seeking adventure and breathtaking scenery, the coastal areas are a top choice. The sources specifically mention Cornwall's rugged coastline with its hidden coves and dramatic cliffs.
Imagine the invigorating feeling of swimming in the cold, clear waters of the Atlantic, surrounded by the raw beauty of nature.
And then there are the tranquil lakes and reservoirs scattered throughout the UK, offering a completely different kind of experience.
Places like Lake Windermere and Lake Ullswater in the Lake District are known for their serene beauty and the sense of tranquility they offer. Imagine immersing yourself in the stillness of a mountain lake, surrounded by forests, and reflecting on the beauty of your surroundings. It's a recipe for deep relaxation.
And if you're looking for community and expert guidance, joining local swimming clubs is a fantastic option.
Absolutely. Local clubs are a wealth of knowledge, about the best spots, safety tips, and the nuances of cold water swimming in your area. Plus, they provide a supportive network of like-minded individuals who share your passion.
All right, so we've covered safety, we've talked about locations. Now let's talk gear. What are the essentials you absolutely need to get started with cold water swimming?
When it comes to cold water swimming, the right equipment can make all the difference in terms of safety, comfort, and enjoyment.
First and foremost, a wetsuit. It's essential for staying warm in those chilly waters.
Investing in a high-quality, cold water-specific wetsuit is crucial. It will provide the insulation you need to stay comfortable and safe, allowing you to extend your time in the water and really embrace the experience.
Next up, goggles. Clear vision underwater is essential for safety and for fully appreciating the beauty beneath the surface.
And don't forget the obvious, but often overlooked, a towel. You'll want to dry off quickly once you're out of the water to prevent further heat loss.
All right, so you've taken the plunge. You've experienced that initial shock, that rush of endorphins, that sense of calm and clarity. How do you make cold water swimming a sustainable part of your life? How do you go from that one-time dip to making it a regular practice?
That's a great question. And it's where the real journey begins. Turning an initial experience into a long-term practice requires planning, commitment, and a bit of self-reflection.
So it's not just about willpower. There's more to it than just forcing yourself to get in the cold water every day.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you, creating a routine that feels sustainable, and most importantly, enjoying the process.
We left off talking about turning that initial cold water plunge into a sustainable practice. What are some practical tips for making this a regular part of our lives?
Building any new habit takes time and effort, and cold water swimming is no exception. The sources highlight the importance of setting realistic goals. It's not about becoming an ice swimming champion overnight. Start with what feels achievable for you and gradually increase the frequency and duration of your swims as you feel more comfortable.
So starting small and building up gradually is key. That seems to be a recurring theme with cold water swimming.
Absolutely. It's important to listen to your body and not push yourself too hard too soon. Remember, this is about enhancing your well-being, not creating unnecessary stress.
One question that came up for me while going through the sources was about the difference between a quick dip and regular cold water swimming. Does the frequency or duration of our exposure to cold water impact the benefits we experience?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are still exploring. There's evidence to suggest that both short, intense exposures, like a quick plunge, and more sustained, regular immersion can have positive effects on both our mental and physical health.
So it's not necessarily an all or nothing kind of thing.
Not at all. Even a brief dip in cold water can trigger those beneficial physiological responses we talked about earlier. Think back to that initial shock response, the release of endorphins, the activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Even a short burst of that can lead to a sense of invigoration, increased alertness, and even a temporary reduction in pain perception. It's like hitting that reset button on your system.
I can see how that would be appealing, especially on days when you're feeling sluggish or mentally drained.
Exactly. Now, for those seeking more sustained benefits, like improved mood regulation, reduced anxiety, and enhanced stress resilience, incorporating regular cold water swimming into your routine might be more effective, the research suggests. That the cumulative effects of repeated exposure over time can lead to more profound and lasting changes.
It makes sense. It's like any kind of training. Consistency is key. Now I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, safety. We touched on some basic tips in part one, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper, especially for those who are new to cold water swimming.
Absolutely. Safety should always be our top priority. Cold water immersion can be an incredibly powerful experience, but it's essential to respect the potential risks and take the necessary precautions.
One of the biggest dangers is obviously hypothermia, right? Our body temperature can drop dangerously low if we're exposed to cold water for too long.
That's right. Hypothermia is a serious condition that can set in quickly, especially in water temperatures below 15 degrees Celsius. It occurs when your body loses heat faster than it can produce it, leading to a drop in core body temperature.
So how do we know when it's time to get out of the water? Are there any warning signs we should be aware of?
Absolutely. The initial stages of hypothermia often manifest as shivering, numbness, and a feeling of intense cold. These are your body's signals that it's struggling to maintain its temperature.
Those sound like pretty clear signals that something's wrong.
As hypothermia progresses, You might experience slurred speech, confusion, clumsiness, and even loss of coordination. If you notice any of these symptoms in yourself or your swimming buddy, it's crucial to exit the water immediately.
That sounds pretty serious. What should we do if someone is showing signs of hypothermia?
Get them out of the water as quickly as possible. Remove any wet clothes and wrap them in warm, dry layers, if possible. Get them to a sheltered area and provide warm drinks. It's also essential to seek medical attention, even if the symptoms seem mild.
So prevention is key. What are some things we can do to minimize the risk of hypothermia in the first place?
We've already talked about the importance of gradual acclimatization, starting with short swims in warmer water and gradually decreasing the temperature and increasing the duration as your body adapts.
But what about gear? Does what we wear make a difference?
Absolutely. Wearing a properly fitted wetsuit is crucial for maintaining core body temperature. It provides a layer of insulation that helps to trap heat and slow down the rate of heat loss.
And I imagine our extremities are particularly vulnerable to the cold.
That's right. Hands, feet, and head are particularly susceptible to heat loss. So wearing neoprene gloves, socks, and a swim cap can make a big difference in staying warm.
The source is also stress. The importance of swimming with a buddy. Can you reiterate why that's so essential?
A swimming buddy can provide that extra layer of safety. They can monitor your condition, provide assistance if needed, and simply offer encouragement and support, which can be invaluable, especially if you're feeling unsure or overwhelmed.
What about choosing safe swimming locations? Are there any specific things we should look for or avoid?
Choosing a safe spot is crucial. Ideally, you want to swim in areas with clear water so you can easily see any potential hazards. Safe depths are essential, especially for those who are not strong swimmers. You'll also want to avoid areas with strong currents, underwater obstacles, or heavy boat traffic.
So common sense is key if an area looks unsafe, or if you're unsure about the conditions. It's best to err on the side of caution.
Exactly. There are plenty of beautiful and safe locations to choose from, so there's no need to take unnecessary risks.
Another tip that I thought was really important, especially in terms of preventing that initial shock, is to have a warm-up routine before entering the water.
That's a great point. Preparing your body for the cold can help minimize that initial shock and make the experience much more enjoyable.
What does a good warm-up look like?
Light cardio exercises, like jogging in place, jumping jacks, or even some brisk walking can help get your blood flowing and increase your core body temperature. Some gentle stretching can also help prepare your muscles for the cold water immersion.
So we've talked about safety, locations, gear, and even warming up. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the mental aspect of cold water swimming, because let's be honest, it's not exactly a walk in the park.
That's where the real magic happens, in my opinion. Cold water swimming is not just a physical activity, it's a mental challenge that can push us beyond our comfort zones and cultivate a unique sense of resilience and mental toughness.
You know, when I think about it, it's almost like a form of mindfulness in motion. You're so focused on the sensations of the cold, on your breath, on simply staying present in that moment, that there's no room for your mind to wander to daily stresses or worries.
Exactly. The cold water demands your complete attention. It's a fully immersive experience that can help quiet that mental chatter and bring you into a state of heightened awareness.
The personal account we discussed in part 1 described those initial moments of shock, eventually giving way to a profound sense of calm and clarity.
That's a common experience among cold water swimmers. The initial discomfort, that feeling of your breath catching in your throat, can be intense, but it often subsides into a feeling of deep peace and tranquility.
I can almost imagine it now. You push through that initial resistance, and then your body and mind surrender to the cold. And it's like this wave of calm washes over you.
And there's a sense of accomplishment that comes with overcoming that initial challenge, a feeling of, I did something hard, and I feel stronger for it.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can see how that feeling of accomplishment, that ability to push through discomfort, could spill over into other areas of life. It's like, if I can handle swimming in frigid water, maybe I can handle that stressful presentation at work or that difficult conversation I've been putting off.
Exactly. It's about building that mental toughness, that resilience, and that belief in your own ability to face challenges head on, both big and small.
One thing I found really interesting in the research was the idea that cold water swimming can help regulate our emotions.
There's a growing body of research exploring this connection, And the findings are quite compelling. Cold water immersion triggers a cascade of physiological responses that can have a positive impact. On mood regulation, we've already talked about the endorphin release. But there's also evidence to suggest that cold water swimming can affect the levels of certain neurotransmitters in the brain, like norepinephrine and dopamine, which play a key role in mood and emotional stability.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It can actually have a lasting impact on our emotional well-being.
That seems to be the case. The research suggests that regular cold water swimming can lead to a reduction in symptoms of anxiety and depression and an overall improvement in mood stability. It's not a cure-all, of course, but it can be a valuable tool in our mental health toolkit.
We've talked a lot about the benefits of cold water swimming, both mental and physical. But I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not for everyone. There are some potential risks and downsides that we need to be aware of as well.
Absolutely. Cold water swimming is a demanding activity that requires a certain level of physical fitness and mental preparedness. It's not something to jump into lightly, especially if you have any pre-existing health conditions.
We've already discussed the risk of hypothermia, which is a serious concern. And we can't stress enough the importance of taking all the necessary precautions to prevent it.
Even for those in good health, the initial shock of cold water can be overwhelming. It can lead to hyperventilation, panic, and even a temporary loss of coordination. That's why starting slowly and gradually acclimatizing your body is so crucial.
And the sources also mention the potential for cold water shock, which is that sudden involuntary gasp for air that can occur when you first enter cold water.
Cold water shock is a reflex response that can be dangerous, especially if you're not expecting it. It can lead to water inhalation and difficulty breathing.
So entering the water slowly and gradually, rather than jumping or diving in, is key to avoiding that sudden shock.
Exactly. And it's also a good idea to practice some controlled breathing exercises before and during your swim to help regulate your breathing and calm your nervous system.
Another potential downside to consider is the cost and accessibility of cold water swimming. Not everyone has easy access to safe and suitable swimming locations.
That's true. While cold water swimming can be enjoyed without spending a fortune, there are some initial costs associated with equipment like a wetsuit, swim cap, and gloves, which can be a barrier for some. And depending on where you live, finding a safe and accessible place to swim might require some effort and planning.
And while joining a swimming club can be a great way to find community and support, cold water swimming can also be a solitary activity, which might not be ideal for everyone.
That's a great point. It's crucial to be honest with yourself about your motivations and preferences. If you thrive in social environments, a swimming club might be a perfect fit. But if you're more introverted and enjoy the solitude of nature, that's perfectly fine too.
So it sounds like the key takeaway here is that cold water swimming is a personal choice. That should be made with careful consideration of both the potential benefits and the potential risks.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's essential to listen to your body, respect your limits, and prioritize safety above all else.
I think that's a perfect place to pause. For part 2 of this deep dive, we've covered a lot of ground today, from safety tips to the mental aspects of cold water swimming, and even explored some of the potential downsides.
In part 3, we'll delve into the cultural significance of cold water swimming, explore its historical roots, and discuss its growing popularity as a form of therapy and personal transformation.
Until then, stay warm, stay curious, and keep exploring those uncharted waters. Welcome back. It's amazing to think that something as simple as taking a dip in cold water can have such a profound impact on our minds and bodies. But in this final part of our deep dive, I want to go beyond the individual benefits and explore something that really captured my imagination while researching all of this, the cultural significance of cold water swimming.
It's fascinating how this practice, which can initially seem so harsh and challenging, has been woven into the rituals and traditions of cultures around the world for centuries. It's almost like there's something primal about our connection to cold water.
That's what I find so intriguing. It's like it's ingrained in us somehow, this understanding that there's something transformative, but immersing ourselves in the cold.
Many cultures view cold water immersion as a form of purification, a way to cleanse the body and mind and connect with a deeper sense of self. Take the Japanese practice of misogi, for example. It's a ritual purification involving standing under an icy waterfall. It's seen as a way to wash away impurities and connect with the sacred.
Wow, that's an incredible image. And it makes you wonder, what is it about cold water that has captivated humans for centuries?
I think it's multifaceted. There's the challenge, of course, the thrill of pushing beyond our perceived limits. Cold water immersion demands something from us. It forces us to confront our vulnerabilities. And in that process of confronting discomfort, we often discover the surprising sense of strength, resilience, and a connection to something larger than ourselves.
That makes so much sense. It's like we're tapping into some ancient wisdom, some primal instinct that understands the power of the elements to shape and transform us.
Exactly. And this isn't just ancient history. We're seeing a resurgence of interest in cold water swimming in recent years, particularly in Western cultures. It's becoming more than just a physical activity. It's a movement, a way for people to reclaim their relationship with nature, challenge societal norms, and explore the transformative power of discomfort.
You put it that way. It's no wonder so many people are drawn to this. It's like a rebellion against the comfort and convenience of modern life, a yearning for something more raw, more real.
And there's a growing body of research that supports this idea of cold water swimming as a form of therapy and personal growth. Scientists are investigating its potential to reduce inflammation, boost the immune system, and even alleviate symptoms of certain mental health conditions, as we've discussed.
It's amazing to see scientific inquiry catching up with what many cultures have intuitively known for centuries.
Yeah.
But beyond the physical and mental benefits, there's something about cold water swimming that speaks to the human spirit, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about embracing the power of the elements, tapping into our inner resilience, and discovering that profound sense of connection that comes from immersing ourselves in the natural world. It's about pushing beyond our comfort zones and realizing that we're capable of so much more than we often give ourselves credit for.
It's like a reminder that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, that we're connected to these ancient rhythms and cycles of nature.
And that in those moments of discomfort, when we're facing that icy plunge, we often find clarity, strength, and a renewed appreciation for the simple act of being alive.
That's beautifully put. So as we conclude our deep dive into cold water swimming, I want to leave our listener with this thought. It's not just about the physical benefits or the mental clarity or even the cultural significance. It's about the journey of self-discovery that unfolds when we step outside our comfort zones and embrace the unknown.
It's about finding strength in vulnerability, resilience in discomfort, and connection in the shared experience of pushing beyond our perceived limits. It's about embracing the wildness within us and rediscovering the joy of being fully alive.
And who knows, maybe you'll discover that. The most powerful transformations happen when you take that leap of faith and immerse yourself in the icy depths. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep